Imagine holding on to something for more than 60 years. A part of yourself you've never been able to fully show. A truth that you've kept hidden while the rest of the world thought they had you all figured out. Johnny Depp, one of the most recognizable faces in Hollywood, has lived with that reality. For decades, people have watched his movies, followed his scandals, and cheered for his comebacks, but very few have understood the man behind it all. And now, at 62, he's reaching a point in his life where the truth can no longer stay hidden. It's easy to think we know celebrities inside out. Social media, interviews, tabloid headlines, information is everywhere. It feels like nothing is private anymore. But what if I told you that some of the biggest stars, the ones constantly in the spotlight, are often the ones carrying the heaviest secrets? That's where Johnny's story becomes fascinating. His secret isn't about a single shocking moment or one big scandal. It's about who he has been his entire life, about what he's been carrying since he was a child, about a side of him most people never even thought to imagine. To understand this truth, you have to go back to where it all started. Johnny wasn't born into Hollywood fame. His childhood in Owensboro, Kentucky, couldn't have been further from the glitz and glamour of movie premieres and flashing cameras. His family didn't live a stable life. They moved constantly, sometimes packing up and leaving town in the middle of the night. New schools, new houses, new faces, stability was a luxury he never had. And when home life was difficult, he had no choice but to create his own escapes. That's where music came in. That's where his imagination became his safe space. Picture a young Johnny, barely a teenager, sitting alone with a guitar in his hands, strumming out feelings he couldn't say aloud. While other kids his age were dreaming about sports or thinking about their first crush, Johnny was already learning how to carry pain, how to mask it, and how to express it without words. He wasn't just playing music, he was teaching himself how to survive. And here's the interesting part. The eccentric, free-spirited Johnny we all know didn't just appear out of nowhere. That wasn't his natural personality. It was something he built. He crafted it as a shield. Because deep down, he never felt like he belonged anywhere. Imagine being in a room full of people and still feeling like you're on the outside looking in. That's what he lived with, and he carried that feeling with him not just through his youth but through every stage of his life. When Hollywood discovered him, you might think that finally changed. Fame, money, success, those are supposed to erase feelings of not fitting in, right? But for Johnny, it only made the divide sharper. Fame became another mask. On the outside, he was this larger-than-life figure, admired, mysterious, unpredictable. But behind the scenes, he was still that boy who never felt quite right in his own skin. Think about it. Edward Scissorhands, Jack Sparrow, the Mad Hatter, these weren't just characters. They were reflections of him. Misfits. Outsiders. People who don't quite belong but still find a way to survive. Roles that let him express himself without ever having to say, "This is who I am." The more you look back at his work, the clearer it becomes that Johnny was using art to tell his secret, even if no one was listening closely enough to hear it. But let's be real. Can anyone hide who they are forever? Can anyone carry something that heavy for more than 6 decades without cracks beginning to show? No matter how skilled he was at disguising it, there comes a time when the truth fights its way out. And for Johnny, that moment came later in life. Not when he was the world's highest paid actor. Not when his movies dominated the box office. But after all of that, after the scandals, the trials, the broken relationships, when the noise of Hollywood became too loud to drown out the voice inside. At 62, Johnny's truth finally started breaking free. And what he's revealed isn't just about him, it's about all of us. It's about the parts of ourselves we keep hidden, the sides we're too afraid to show. Psychologists call it the shadow self. It's the emotions, the fears, the vulnerabilities we bury deep down because we think people won't accept them. Everyone has one. Johnny's just happened to play out on the biggest stage in the world. Let's pause here for a moment. Have you ever hidden a part of yourself because you thought people wouldn't understand? Maybe it was a passion you didn't share, a dream you didn't pursue, or a pain you kept silent about. If you've ever done that, then you already know a piece of what Johnny has lived with his whole life. The only difference is, while you might have hidden it in front of a few people, Johnny had to hide it in front of millions. That's why his story resonates so deeply. Fame didn't fix his struggles. It magnified them. Success didn't heal him. It distracted him. Awards, money, applause, those can make you feel validated for a moment, but they can't give you peace if you haven't accepted yourself. Johnny's life proves that. He could play characters that entertained the world, but the role he avoided the longest was the role of himself. And here's where the story shifts. After years of running, after decades of disguises, Johnny is now embracing the very thing he once tried to keep hidden. He's using his art, not just acting, but music and painting, as a way to finally show who he is without the mask. He's stopped hiding the fact that he's vulnerable, that he's flawed, that he's human. And that, in a way, is more powerful than any character he's ever played. What makes this truth so profound is the timing. 62 years. That's a lifetime. But maybe that's what makes it so inspiring. It proves that it's never too late. Never too late to stop hiding. Never too late to say, "This is who I am." Never too late to find peace with yourself. This is why Johnny's story matters. Not just because he's famous, but because he represents something universal. The idea that we all carry secrets. We all wear masks. But life becomes lighter when we stop pretending. When we allow ourselves to be seen. When we stop worrying about what the world expects and start living for what feels true. Johnny's truth may have been hidden for 62 years, but now that it's out, it changes everything. It reminds us that no matter how long you've been hiding, no matter how heavy the secret feels, there's always a chance to let go. Always a chance to begin again. And maybe that's the most exciting part. His story isn't ending. It's just beginning again. The man who once hid behind characters is now stepping into the role of himself. And for the first time, the world is seeing Johnny Depp not just as a superstar, not just as a scandal, not just as a legend, but as a man. A man who is still growing, still learning, still searching. So now I'll leave you with this thought. What's one truth in your own life that you've been keeping hidden? One part of yourself you've been afraid to share? Maybe it's time to let it out. Maybe it's time to take off the mask. Because if Johnny Depp can do it after 62 years, then maybe we can too. And if this made you see him in a new light, don't stop here. There's more to his journey. Stories about his battles, his art, and how he's rebuilding his life after the hardest years are waiting. Stick around, because Johnny's journey is far from over. If anything, it feels like it's just beginning again.